especially that old.
Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome back to Your Brain on Air. I am your host, Ollie Vogt Larson. And folks, I'm not seeing the new Spider-Man. I'm sorry. Brand new day, brought to you by Palantir, Big Brother, the Department of Defense. Propaganda at its finest. Best wishes to Tom and Zendaya Holland. Peter Parker, more like Peter Thiel. I'm sorry, I'm not shelling out $20 for it. By the way, it's so expensive to go to the movies nowadays. I don't understand why they keep putting things out if they're going to. You can't load up my month. You know what I mean? I went to the Odyssey. That was my one. I understand that it's a new month, it's August, but I've already gone to the movies once this summer. I've already done it. I did it with Superman last year, and I was like, all right, that's good enough. You know what I mean? I don't need to see another movie for, until another season. You have to spread out movies, otherwise they get a little exhausting, let's be honest. There's, only time for one summer blockbuster. If we're gonna be honest, it costs $20 to take, 2 people to the movie these days, and if you're bringing your family, that's gonna be at least, $100 if you throw on concessions. It's ridiculous. And by the way, not even worth it half the time because the movie turns out to be a 7 out of 10. You have key fundamental issues with it, but you enjoy your time watching it the entire time. Music Monday, by the way. Music Monday while we talk. I'm just saying, I want to go to a movie, but I want to guarantee that I'm going to enjoy myself. Nowadays, there's not 8 and 9 out of 10 movies. It's more often than not a Barbie type of a situation where I don't love the fact that Barbie, we couldn't judge it authentically. Most of the time, people were they were throwing out a review to be more aligned with a political movement. I hated the idea that Barbie was if you liked the movie, you liked feminism. If you hated the movie, you hated women or whatever. But it's I just want to watch the movie and give my authentic opinion, where it's I don't love the fact that they did a weird thing with Barbie and Ken not actually dating. Isn't that the whole thing? That they're together? At least that's my opinion. That, it was weird to see Ryan Gosling and Margot Robbie never being in a relationship throughout that movie, but that's some people's opinion. Ladies and gentlemen, I understand that this is not for everybody, so we'll turn this back down, because Kanye, he's not everybody's taste. Unfortunately, some people, they're bigoted, you know what I mean? They don't like black people. I don't know. I guess that's their thing. Let's talk about our first news story of the day. A statue of former Homeland Security Secretary Kristi Noem was unveiled in Pierre, South Dakota. It's a life-size depiction of her right next to a horse. Let's take a look at this. It was that, or they had to depict her next to her husband, and they didn't want, they were like, we're not doing the tit thing. That's ridiculous. The gag is old. It looks just like her, man. Looks like a horse.
They and said they wanted to do the statue. I said, well, shouldn't I be dead first?
What?
They said no.
Yeah, generally.
And I said, well, I would appreciate it if we could wait until then, because it just seems strange to do a statue when you're still alive.
Why are you there then?
And I said, well, then if we're going to do one, I really want my horse to be in it.
Oh, yeah.
And that made things complicated.
I don't want to waste on just bronze on my body. I want pounds and pounds and pounds of bronze instead of going to, making other more valuable products. I understand that it's there's no industry in America. Nobody's riveting together Fords on the assembly line these days. But, that bronze could have just gone to so many other uses, ladies and gentlemen. Okay, throughout the weekend, I gathered, stories, clips, fun things that I wanted to share with you. One of these fun little things that I found was a Mormon podcast. It's called Mormon Stories Podcast. And it has these two hosts where this guy named Randy, he talks about what it's like as a devout Mormon man to find coffee in his fridge. Now, if you don't know, coffee for them, it's generally not revered. You know what I mean? The Mormon Church, they're kind of opposed to anything that, in their view, intoxicates the mind. Even when it's the intoxication is more of an upper. And I'm not an upper guy. I'm not a cigarette all the time person. I don't like the feeling of something that really speeds you up. I did the amphetamine and whatnot that they give you when you're supposed to be all fucked up in the head, but it's all that it did for me was just kind of make me feel dialed for a while, but not really focused to where I could do something, but more just thought anxious. And that's why I'm uppers are just not they're not my game. I'm sorry. You know what I mean? It's not an area of who relaxes when they feel their heartbeat inside their chest? That's a little much for me, but I'm a coffee person. I do coffee pretty much every day at this point. It's something that I've been doing since I was a child. And you know what I mean? Maybe it's just my sinful ways that have made it to where coffee is not really that big of a deal to me. But when you hear these men talk, it's very clear that coffee is a big righteous deal to them.
Yeah, it's terrifying, isn't it?
Yeah.
And it's deeply sad when your loved one comes to you with doubts.
Mm-hmm. And just having that
the light switch is either on or off, and so
What?
anytime conversation would come up, I'd just like, nope. And then just slowly, things, she'd let me know of certain of things, and
What
I don't know what
things?
time frame this was, but I remember one morning I opened the fridge and there was some coffee in there, and I remember going to my room and just bawling.
Guys, it's really tough when your wife brings home a pot of coffee, or like, was it even like just like a cup? You know what I mean? It's not like a whole. She's not doing a pour over blend, and she's not leaving like the pitcher there so that all of her children can sinfully come up and take a sip of it. I'm assuming, just has like an individual coffee for herself. That's enough to make her husband bawl.
Because I didn't know she was drinking coffee, and that was huge.
I know.
And that was just devastating. Like,
That's
what's going
crazy.
to happen to my marriage? What's happened to her eternal salvation?
Yep, her eternal
She's not on the right
salvation.
path.
She's not on the right path.
She's gone.
She's gone.
And eventually we talked about it, but I think it took me a little bit to even bring it up to her.
Can you imagine
So
yelling
I
at your
was
wife
devastated.
because of this?
Yeah.
Like, listen, there's a lot of reasons to yell at your spouse. There's a lot of reasons to fight, but coffee. Maybe it's just me. Maybe I'm not wholly of minded. Maybe I'm just not. I need to be purified. You know what I mean? I need to be informed. I need to be educated. I'm thinking of going to Utah, honestly, for a mission. I know that normally they come to me in order to convert me. I'm thinking of going to Salt Lake City and trying a little while there. I love saint places. I love places with like a tie towards a regional church, because that shows that the people of that city are generally unquestioning, and a bunch of like little fellas that it's like they're more so head bobblers. You can take advantage of them. Whether or not they're in a church, they grew up in a church community, so they were raised to kind of trust trust the stranger, treat him with kindness, and so as a result, they're very easy to take advantage of. It's a good thing to keep in your back pocket if you ever have to think about it. If there's a heavy not the Catholics though. They're the ones that they preach about how kind and giving they are. They're the last ones to give you a bed if you need anywhere to sleep. It's just reality. Like, in all honesty, but if you're in a heavy Mormon community, take advantage of it. Take advantage of your stranger's kindness. You know what I mean? If you ask gently enough, I think they'll give you their car. In reality, ladies and gentlemen, speaking of people who will probably hand over their car if you just so much as look at them wrong, St. Paul, the city of St. Paul, recently has shut down one of the largest homeless encampments that they have. This population surge is getting over to a nearby camp located in the woods along Randolph Avenue and Shepherd Road. It's directly across from a luxury apartment complex. So, the displaced residents, several miles up the Mississippi River, they have relocated. The population at the Randolph site roughly doubled just over the last few days. This was already a camp, but then they had some, the Hooverville, the main Hooverville, Pig's Eye Park. It got slain. The cops went in there, they broke it up, and they needed a new place to have their open air drug market. So they hiked it up north a little ways up the Mississippi like pilgrims. That's the thing about the homeless, is they're the only ones keeping up the like old, really live off the land lifestyle. You know, when you read like Little House on the Prairie and it was these people that were like struggling to keep the house warm during winter, that's what a lot of these homeless people do. There's little families, there's like, they have little covered wagons that are made out of shopping carts. It's kind of like a little fairy tale. It's really nice if you think about it in a way. So it's drawn a lot of reactions from the tenants at the neighboring Waterford Bay apartments. Residents report a noticeable increase in local police activity and emergency calls. Some apartment dwellers express concern over rising property crimes and trespassing. Others voice empathy for their new neighbors. Oh, wow. That's the Minnesota bleeding heart for you. They're acknowledging that those living in the tents are simply trying to survive and build a drug community. They just said a community, but I know that it's a drug community during difficult economic times. It's been a difficult economic time for these people since they decided to go camping forever. That's the tough thing for them. Encampment residents are saying that the wooded lot provides a necessary safe haven while they navigate the search for permanent housing. These people are not searching for permanent housing. They're searching for permanent handouts. St. Paul and Ramsey County officials emphasized that severe public health and safety concerns drove the original Pig's Eye clearance, noting that local government has allocated over $1 million to expand regional shelter beds. However, community advocates and area lawmakers are cautioning that the sudden shutdown of the established camps without guaranteeing any long-term housing is merely shifting the population from one neighborhood to another. So, I agree. This is fun. They should have said, look, listen, you're going to have to leave the entire city. If you go anywhere, we're just going to arrest you. Unfortunately, we got to chase him out. Saint, Saint, whatever his name is, Saint Patrick, Saint Urho, whatever your saint is that chased, whether it was snakes or crickets, or when you chase something out of a region, you have to do the full job. You have to play your flute. You have to swing a rod at them or something. You have to really clear out the snakes. Otherwise, they're just going to come back. Saint Urho had to clear out all of the snakes from Finland. Saint what's his name? Saint Patrick. God, it's Monday morning. You got to forgive me. Saint Patrick cleared all the fucking grasshoppers. We need a Saint Paul to come clear out all the homeless people.
The closure of one homeless encampment means another is growing in St. Paul. WCCO took you inside this encampment.
Now, this is, unfortunately, like St. Paul trying to go in for cancer treatment. They scraped out the malignant tumor that they thought was the main issue, but unfortunately, like Biden, it already metastasized to the bone, and now it's spreading throughout the body.
Another is growing in St. Paul.
It's growing. Another tumor has already started to grow. It has teeth in it and eyes developing.
WCCO took you inside this encampment on the city's west side this week. People living there tell us the population doubled over the past few days. And as our Connor White shows us, it's also causing problems for a luxury apartment complex next door.
Chelsea Diver found herself on the move again this week.
This is some of the people from Pig's Eye over here.
Part of a group that is settling in an encampment off Randolph Road and Shepherd Avenue after the city of St. Paul shut down the encampment at Pig's Eye Park. A longtime Randolph resident estimates the population here doubled, believing more than 100 people now live around the tracks on trails.
By the way, you really got to try to be homeless. It's tough. It's not tough to hold a job. It's not tough to show up to work. It's not tough to pay your rent. It's tough to set up a tent every single night. It's granted, if you're a not very committal person, if you're not oriented towards trying, if you're not oriented towards whatever, it's going to be tough to hold down a job, to do any of those sorts of things, to actually maintain income. Unfortunately, though, I think that you're better off. Learning to push yourself a teensy bit if it means that you're going to avoid. Like I said, this is sleeping out in the elements.
Trails deep in the woods, where Diver says she feels safe.
This is home. This is my area.
I can tell why this is home. I can see the ashtray on the bench. Look at your muffin top. It's peeking out from underneath your gross... This is like a tank top. You're carrying a garbage bag. God, you're a filthy woman.
The city pointed to assaults, drug use, and medical emergencies as a reason to first close Pig's Eye. The plan is to then close others like this one.
Good.
In the meantime, as the Randolph camp grows, tenants at the luxury Waterford Bay apartments across the street are seeing a change.
It's gotten a lot worse over by us.
Gabby Anderson says she's lived here for 2 years. She says she feels for the people living outside, but says the situation has gotten more dangerous.
We all just want to get along and have kind of like a kumbaya, but at the end of the day, they are breaking into people's cars, they're entering the building, they're doing things that, we're not, super comfortable with.
There are some tents down here just off the Randolph Bridge, and if you walk with me, the woods eventually come to this border fence with the apartment building, which is here.
Wow.
Do their thing. We're living our life.
Ryan Garcia says it's mostly peaceful and some tenants are helping donate supplies. He says police are now turning up more often, posting additional no trespassing signs outside the luxury units.
We weren't harming nobody. We're not doing nothing bad.
Inside the camp, people tell us they just want to be left to build community.
Build community. That means they want to build open-air drug markets. It's expert. It's, you know what I mean? It's the Minnesota passive-aggressive way to say it, though. We're not hurting nobody, this Indian girl.
Not doing nothing bad.
Inside the camp, people tell us they just want to be left to build community. But city leadership says these spots are illegal and pose a major public safety threat.
Oh my God.
The day of the Pig's Eye shutdown, Mayor Khalil Herr stated that each person was offered shelter and resources, with her team emphasizing the safety issue at hand. Fellow Democrat Lee Finke, who represents St. Paul in the State House, says the shutdown was a mistake.
Really, the fish hatchery location was very accessible. And now people are living at a much less accessible and much smaller place with more people and fewer resources. I mean, it's really going to be an issue. And I'm not sure what we should do at this point going forward.
Representative Finke says she pushed to avoid closing any of the camps before establishing permanent housing options. The city of St. Paul and Ramsey County are spending at least $1 million expanding shelter beds, but so far we're told just a handful of people from Pig's Eye are actually making use of them, Derek.
All right, man, it's going to be very interesting to see what happens.
You're gonna be very interesting to see what happens. You know what I mean? I love it. I love all of this. I love that the city of Minneapolis, St. Paul more specifically, they're getting a handle on it, no matter how messy it is. Mayor Kali is taking a break from those sexual, not assault, harassment allegations to go ahead and clear up some homeless people. Good for her. Minnesota's AG is also talking about legal action regarding the two rival gangs. However, when you have, a criminal running running the position that he does, the AG of a state, it's going to be tough because the criminals don't tend to persecute other criminals. It's when Minneapolis and more specifically Minnesota, you have inmates running the asylum, like AG Keith Ellison.
Some may say, well, why give them access to the state fair, period? Why not just completely ban them from the premises and just get them away from this, where we know we're going to have, close to 2 million people? Why still allow them to have access to the fair if this goes through?
Yeah, because we believe that there are constitutional challenges with banning somebody from the fair when there has not been an act yet. See, the reason
they're just a part of gangs. And they could, they could be up to something. We don't know if they're going to attack the state fair of Minnesota, but it could happen. We just can't ban them.
Is that it is looking at threats that they've made in their history, but they have not yet committed an act that is constitutionally trespassable. And so
this is what Keith Ellison wants. He wants his boys to have a chance to run in there, clank a couple white people on the heads with whatever they might happen to have. They can pick up something from the ground. They can use their fists. But he wants all of his boys to have a chance to run into the state fair, clank a couple people on the head, steal a couple bags, eventually maybe steal a couple cars. And he wants them to have a good time before he even considers banning any street gangs from Minneapolis's or Minnesota's state fair.
That's the reason. If they choose not to come to the fair, that will be their choice. I will tell them if they do.
We are hoping that the gangs choose not to come to the fair. That's how we're going to keep them away.
And they have to act responsibly and according to the law and according to the requirements of the injunction we're seeking.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, feel at ease. If the gangs do end up showing up to the state fair, they have to follow the laws. All right, that's gonna prevent them from breaking any laws that they've already broken in the streets. They're not gonna do it because we've said they can't. Ladies and gentlemen, let's get a little sad for a second. Unfortunately, Hunter Biden is speaking out on his father's health, and it's pretty declining, as is to be expected. His father is 83 years old. So, and he's a former president. He had a lot of stress on his plate the last 4 years. Hiding a cancer, is pretty tough on the brain, from what I've heard. Beau Biden, it's something they have in the family where, he was still running for office even when he was aware of his terminal diagnosis, and it's a very Irish, stupid thing in order to be like, why would I even give up? Why would I ever surrender? Why would I ever admit that I have a debilitating condition of like tumors growing in my brain? I'm gonna run for this, position. It's a very Biden thing to do. Unfortunately, they have a history of it. So I won't doubt that if Hunter Biden does have a cancer, if he ever does choose to run for office, likely how he will in 2028 or 2032, when Hunter Biden runs for office, expect that he might be hiding a cancer because both his father and brother have done it. It's not shocking at this point that this family would be running for power while they are hiding very debilitating conditions. It's like Hillary Clinton if the pneumonia thing went all the way, and if she actually was president. That's what I mean. So he's talking to BBC. He has an emotional interview where he's just talking about, it's not great, man. It's just like it's stage 4 metastatic bone cancer. It's really tough. Stage 4. Last May he got the diagnosis, just months after leaving office. He disclosed the diagnosis. Let's be honest, he knew about it likely for a lot longer. And despite ongoing radiation and hormone treatments, including lowering his testosterone, Hunter Biden noted that the disease is continuing to spread, adding that he wishes his father would complain more about the physical discomfort. You really want to hear that? You want to hear your parents complain about the pain that they're feeling? Actually, I prefer if they were a little more Irish about it, a little more like, I say, we don't talk about the pain. We don't talk about the real internal disaster that we're feeling that is our emotions. So it's tough. It's a really tough update to hear, especially if you were a fan of Mr. Biden, which, he was fun to have while he was there.
The only thing that I say about my dad, about his health right now, is I wish he would complain more, because it's not good. The cancer has spread, has metastasized into his bones and further. It's very painful, and it's very debilitating in many respects, but he's still out there.
Joe Biden revealed his diagnosis in May of last year, 4 months after leaving office, saying he'd been diagnosed with an aggressive form of prostate cancer that had spread to his bones. This week on Kelly Ripa's podcast, Jill Biden said her husband is doing okay, but that the couple has to be mindful of the cancer with rounds of testing and medicine every 3 months. This past spring, Jill Biden wrote in her book that she noticed what she now suspects were early symptoms of the cancer when the couple was still in the White House. The former president has written a book of his own, which is set for release in November, just days before his 84th birthday.
Promise me, America.
Last fall, the former president rang the bell at Penn Medicine in Philadelphia after completing a course of radiation therapy there. He was also reported to be receiving hormone treatments. A Biden spokesperson declined to comment on the former president's current condition. Now, in addition to reflecting on his dad's battle with cancer, Hunter Biden also told the BBC that his father has been rightly criticized for granting him a pardon in his final weeks in office. Hunter Biden was convicted of gun charges. He pleaded guilty to tax charges. Joe Biden said at the time those cases were infected by politics, amounting to what he called a miscarriage of justice. Well, his son now says while he's grateful for the pardon, he feels the decision was not good for the American people, for the Constitution, or for his father's legacy. Gio?
All right. It was a terrible decision, but that's beside the point. Your father's dying of metastatic bone cancer. It's terrible, ladies and gentlemen. Hunter Biden is on a real media tour. He went out to talk to Nick Fuentes. He's doing interviews with Andrew Callahan on Channel 5. He's trying to make a name for himself. Do you know why this is? I think you do. I think you do because you're smart. You know that he's like, I'm just trying to touch people who are addicted. I love touching people, and I love just making sure that they feel touched by me. But I don't think that he's out to just make people feel touched or nothing. People who are in addiction, as he phrases it. He's like, in addiction? What are you talking about? Addiction is something you choose. Speaking as somebody who has known many addicts and has been addictive about certain things in his life, addiction is something you choose. It's a selfish human behavior that you engage with, and then you eventually defeat, or you don't, or it defeats you. And that's fine. That's just human nature. Tell him that it's human nature. Why does he do me that way? You know what I mean? It's like we've had songs about it for generations. It's just kind of how we exist. But you know what we don't have songs about? We don't have songs about the rapid fire section of today's headlines or any of our topics that we're going to cover in it, because we have tons of things to talk about in order to keep your media diet healthy, ladies and gentlemen. Scientists have successfully used AI, artificial intelligence, to create new viruses. Doesn't that sound like a great and productive use of our time?
This is straight out of science fiction. For the first time ever, scientists have used AI to create new kinds of viruses. In a new paper, researchers at Stanford and the Arc Institute say they trained an AI model to predict DNA sequences, so sort of how ChatGPT has been trained to predict the next word in a sentence. The model then went on to write genetic sequences for bacteria-killing viruses that were unlike anything we've ever seen in nature before. So we already know that AI can be used to create genetic blueprints. What's new here is this was not just theoretical. The scientists actually took the blueprint and turned it into living viruses.
Great idea.
Said the viruses did not pose a threat to humans because they didn't train the model with data about how to infect people, animals, or plants. But this is understandably raising safety concerns. For example, that AI...
You don't think that it can figure it out? You know, life finds a way. If it feels like hopping to humans eventually, it'll figure it out.
That could be used to create a new kind of biological weapon that the government doesn't have strong enough safeguards in place. At the same time, there could be major health benefits like new treatments for diseases, antibiotic-resistant infections, so the potential for both enormous benefits and serious danger. Rebecca.
Listen, I love it. I love that humans, we are double-edged swords. We are two sides of the same coin, whatever faggy phrase you want to use. We are are capable of endless amounts of evil, endless amounts of good, ladies and gentlemen. It's fun. It's fun and I like it. In more than 40 states, marijuana is now legal. It's a method of relieving pain for a lot of people, method of relaxing, method of getting away from the disaster of choosing to become a parent, especially in the modern age. Not to say that children have a way, like, you know what I mean, have a way of breaking you down specifically, but I've heard a lot of people say that it's just not worth it financially. You know what I mean? The kids are just not, their personalities are forming, they're too much of the other parent, they really don't like the person that they're going to be forced to raise for the next however many, maybe like 15 years, especially because personality starts to be clear around the ages of like 2 or 3, and people are like, I wish I could pull the ripcord, I wish I could get out of here. And pulling the ripcord for a lot of these people, unfortunately, the people who don't realize that parenthood is tough, they didn't realize that it would be that when they got into it, they take weed, they take alcohol, and honestly, it's better than what their past generation was doing. Their past generation was drinking every single night. They were doing weed occasionally. I love how for Gen X it was kind of like a when weed is around type of a thing. You had to be around the type of guys to smoke it if you wanted weed. But otherwise, for Gen X, it was cigs, it was beer, it was the typical. It was what you would find out at a party or whatever it be. It's real and it's cool and it's interesting. But now that THC marijuana is legal for all of these people, they are not great at hiding it. They're not great at keeping it away from the kids. And unfortunately, in Idaho, and more than 1,000 new mothers have ended up on child abuse registries after testing positive for THC. These women did not lay a hand on their child. These women did not have any sort of like, oh well, I only hit them when they break something. They didn't have any weird confessions where it's like we know that you're a bad person. They tested positive for THC following childbirth. In other states, women have also been sent to jail for this same exact crime. What are we dealing with here? Let's hear a teensy bit more about it.
For the majority of Americans, marijuana is now legal to relieve pain or for recreational purposes. But in the state of Idaho, more than 1,000 new mothers have landed on a child abuse registry after testing positive for THC while giving birth. We spent months digging into why is this happening? And what we uncovered raises some serious and hard questions about who gets punished and who doesn't.
I just thought, okay, just tell me what I have to do so that this can all go away. And little did I know that it wasn't going to just go away. This was going to haunt me for the next 10 years of my life.
Yikes, ladies and gentlemen. Well, okay, hold on. Let's make it very clear. If you're testing positive for THC due to you ingesting any edibles or any sort of thing like that while you are pregnant, I do believe we need to talk about some sort of a registry. I'm sorry to say that. But I'd feel the same exact way if you tested positive for alcohol after giving birth. I would say the same exact thing. And I know that people are going to go, we don't know that weed affects children the same way as alcohol or whatever. I still don't believe that you should be like smoking. I don't believe you should be doing any of that shit when you have a human being inside of you. I think that absolutely could qualify for abuse charges, at least in my mind. You know what I mean? If the details around this are that these women were contaminated, they had it thrown into their blood. Oh, somebody who had an edible last night sneezed into their blood sample. Then, if it was an absolute misunderstanding, that's a tragedy. However, if you're the type of woman to have a little tiny edible, to have a little something while not your period pains, but your pregnancy pains are occurring, you're like, shit, my back really hurts, I'm gonna pop an edible. I really don't know if that's, I don't know if that's ethical in my personal view, but who am I, ladies and gentlemen? Who am I but someone who's like, concerned about the idea of pregnant women taking edibles? That's just, in my mind, I feel like that's not going to be great for the baby. Donald Trump's most vocal opponents on the right are sowing the seeds for the future. There might be, as we speak right now, the talks of a third political party being organized. Listen, this was a weekend get-together that was at Tucker Carlson's home, weirdly enough, his little compound that he has, with Representative Thomas Massey, former Representative Marjorie Taylor Greene, and others. They served as launch pads for a possible independent presidential campaign focused on unwinding the United States involvement from foreign conflicts. So, I don't know whether or not Tucker Carlson will be running for president. I highly doubt it. Based on the idea that he's getting enough money from things like Alp and his podcast, I don't know. I really don't know what he would benefit. He wouldn't get anything out of this. He's rich enough. He's got plenty. I understand that you can always be richer. And if you're a type like Donald Trump, where it's not about the ethics, it's not about you believe you're serving out your Christian goal. You don't believe in any sort of, you don't have like a guiding principle. If you're just focused on the idea of you, that would be a little more concerning. And Tucker Carlson worries me because he's a Protestant. He's a deeply faithful Christian man. Out of nowhere, by the way. A lot of this faith came out of nowhere when he read the Bible however many years ago for the first time all the way through. So whatever it is that is motivating him here, I think we still have more of a chance of Hunter Biden being president in 2028 than we do Tucker Carlson, but that's just me.
President Trump's biggest critics on the right might be planning something that could shake up the 2028 election. A group of prominent conservatives met this weekend at Tucker Carlson's home in Maine to discuss what could become a new third-party political movement. We're talking Carlson, Representative Thomas Massey, Marjorie Taylor Greene, and former Trump official Joe Kent. And the issue bringing them together? Foreign policy.
Trump has been disloyal to the United States, totally disloyal to the United States. He cheated on the United States with a foreign power.
Greene accused Trump of breaking his promise to keep America out of foreign wars, writing, "He's betrayed us all. The movement has begun." Carlson, Greene, and Massey all backed Trump in 2024, but now they're encouraging Tucker Carlson to run for president, although he's reportedly not interested. Their proposed platform would focus almost entirely on ending U.S. military involvement in foreign conflicts. But launching a viable third party is almost impossible. They're up against steep ballot access requirements and fundraising challenges. History isn't on their side. Take Robert F. Kennedy Jr.'s 2024 independent campaign, for example. He dropped out months before Election Day when he endorsed Trump. So the question now for the former Trump allies, is this just venting frustration, or is this the beginning of a serious political movement?
Third parties, they really struggle. If they don't have a solid enough candidate that a lot of the people they feel like they can relate to, they can understand. You have to have somebody who you have to have. I'm not gonna throw out exactly who I think their best pick would be, but you need to have somebody with a bit of an effect to them. A Ross Perot. You need somebody who's like, I'm not spending PAC money. I'm not taking money from the billionaires. I'm spending my money. You need somebody who's got their own image, their own brand, their own build. We need to redefine what we're looking at here. If you want people to think about, okay, we're a trilateral. We have the Republicans, we have the Democrats, and I don't know, I guess this would be like a libertarian type of wing. They're not deeply libertarian people, though. That's the thing. Some of these people are deeply interlinked by their faith. Some of them are more so. I understand that foreign policy seems to be a big concern for them, but you can't base an entire political party just off of foreign policy. So I don't know where it goes. I have no idea where it goes from here. Do we have a Tucker Carlson presidency in the future? Possibly. Less likely, I'm going to be honest though, less likely though than Hunter Biden's. A powerful 7.4 magnitude earthquake has struck Western Colombia today, shaking the South American nation and its neighboring Ecuador and prompting people to evacuate their homes and buildings. How fun.
We're following breaking news. A strong earthquake has shaken people out of their beds in South America. You may have just seen the push notification on the ABC 7 app. The 7.4 quake jolted parts of Western Colombia and Ecuador just after 5:30 this morning. There have been evacuations of buildings through those two countries. Right now, we don't have reports of injuries or any tsunami warnings, but obviously we will be watching this closely throughout the morning.
Please do. Watch it closely for me because I'm not there, unfortunately. First human case of West Nile virus confirmed in Cass County for North Dakota. What are we talking about?
State health officials have reported North Dakota's first human case of West Nile virus this year. The North Dakota Department of Health and Human Services says a person in Cass County was hospitalized with the virus. Most people who contract West Nile do not develop symptoms, but some may feel like they have the flu, and it can cause severe symptoms in rare cases. To date, the virus had been detected in at least 10 mosquito pools in North Dakota, including 2 in Ward County. The city of Minot will begin conducting a ground spray of mosquitoes this evening as an added effort to control populations and limit the virus. Crews will conduct evening sprays in 7 different blocks of Minot with the goal of covering a block a night. The city says the operation could take up to 2 weeks. funding for the spray is already included in this year's budget.
So, if you don't know, West Nile virus, it's this thing where it's a mosquito-borne disease similar to malaria. It's spread primarily through the bite of an infected Culex mosquito. Well, 80% of people, generally, they don't show any sort of victims. Others are going to experience mild flu-like symptoms or severe neurological illnesses. It's passed, obviously, where the feeding insect, it's going to either be on carrier birds, it's not person to person, so don't worry about it. Fauci is not going to be on the news here telling you that West Nile is spreading because people are handshaking or something like that. It can occasionally happen via blood transfusions, organ transplants, or like mother to baby types of things, like during pregnancy or breastfeeding. Adults over 60 and 65 or people with weak immune systems obviously face a higher risk of getting it. There's mild illnesses, which is about 20% of the cases that are left over from that 80% that don't really feel much, where they'll have fever, headache, body aches, joint pain, vomiting, diarrhea. But then in the less than 1% of cases, there will be high fever, neck stiffness, disorientation, tremors, convulsions, muscle weakness, and paralysis. So, prevention-wise, be careful of the mosquitoes. That's all I can say. Spritz for it. Stay inside as best you can. And, honestly, you should be staying inside regardless because of flock cameras. License plate readers, they are being widely vandalized across the state of Minnesota. And police are saying the cameras are very important for, they're an investigative tool. They're used, to help save children that we tell you go missing and then never see again because we use them in a Freemason ritual. But whatever, that's like, you need to accept the surveillance state. It's too late.
The one thing in the past few weeks that probably takes up most of my time.
Plymouth Police Chief Eric Fadden is talking about these automated license plate reader cameras.
We found it in pieces on the ground at the base of the pole.
The city has 18 of them around town, and within the last month alone, vandals took a shot at 2 of them.
The camera was completely destroyed. Somebody hit it with a bat or something.
But Plymouth isn't alone. A half dozen other communities are also dealing with ALPR camera vandalism and theft. There's even a website and app that will show you exactly where you can find all the cameras near you. State law requires that police delete all data within 60 days. Many agencies, though, go ahead and get rid of it after a month.
Well, that's the thing, is that they hold on to it in data farms. I don't know what else. I don't know where, if you want to be honest about the idea that they can draw off of all of these faces they've collected. I don't know if you want to be honest about the fact that that police have been using this to stalk people. Whatever. That's okay. You don't have to be honest with it. Ladies and gentlemen, I want to have a little bit of fun teasing with this Paris Hilton story. You know what I mean? He says his kids are not going to get a penny. And this justifies why I think, maybe he should just not have his kids around.
I don't want to leave them a single dollar. That's not a joke.
What makes you feel that way, though?
I want to enjoy my money. It's my money. I'm sacrificing so much for 20 years or so. I worked so hard. I want to hopefully be able to live long enough to then enjoy that next era of my life. And why leave it behind? They can work for it themselves or not.
Yeah, I love it, man.
I tell my kids all the time, you better study hard because when you graduate college, you're on your own, kid. I used to be a diva before you were born. I would go and take really fancy vacations all over the world.
It sounds like you really would prefer to be living that queer out there lifestyle where it's I'm just gay and I go to different hotels and I hang out with a bunch of different men and I just live this life of debauchery. I think that you should go back to that when we take your children with CPS.
Taking fancy vacations all over the world anymore because I have 3 kids and I have to be really mindful with my spending.
Yeah.
I will always be their father and always be there to love them and support them. But any money that I have, I will start to budget it and give myself an annual allowance and start taking those international diva trips again.
I love it.
Well, all right, good for you. I hope that you're when you get out of the hospital, when you're done being 5150'd, I hope that you have a great time with that, ladies and gentlemen. Okay, U.S. economy, our final story for the day. The U.S. economy, according to the latest economic numbers, are it's struggling. cooling. It's raising a lot of concerns for American households as the combination of persistent energy costs and the cooling labor market are pointing to a growing financial strain for most people. According to the latest report from the Bureau of Labor Statistics, the U.S. economy unexpectedly shed 23,000 jobs last month, falling well short of the forecasts and marking the first negative month for payroll growth since earlier this year. Analysts note that the headline unemployment rate did tick down slightly to 4.1%. That shift, though, was primarily driven by hundreds of thousands of workers leaving the labor force altogether rather than a surge of new hiring. Compounding those labor market headwinds is a renewed surge in prices at the pump, persistent elevated oil prices, and supply chain disruptions have kept gasoline significantly higher than earlier this year, eroding recent wage gains and squeezing household budgets. Economists are warning that the higher transport costs are trickling down through the supply chains, adding upward pressure on overall living costs, just as consumer confidence struggles to find steady footing. There is a dual challenge of the softening job market and the stubbornly high energy expenses. It's putting renewed pressure on federal policymakers and central bank officials. There's an annual wage growth slowing and inflation is still remaining sticky. So market watchers are closely tracking how these economic indicators are going to influence upcoming decisions on interest rates and federal economic policy in the months ahead.
Now to new signs of trouble for the U.S. economy. Gas prices, you've seen this, they're back above $4 a gallon. That's nearly a $1 increase since last year due to the war with Iran.
Winning.
Another concern is the loss of 23,000 jobs last month in July. Economists, though, had forecast an increase. This is all causing new political worries for President Trump. Nancy Cordes is at the White House with the latest. Nancy, good morning. Always good to see you. The president's got a lot on his plate these days.
Oh, yeah, he do.
He does, Gail, and the challenge here is the timing. We're now less than 3 months away from the November elections, and the economic headwinds for Republicans and this president are mounting, and it's affecting the way that candidates from both parties are honing their economic messages.
Hey guys, you want to come down here? It's the latest sign of a slowing economy. 23,000 jobs lost last month.
Yikes.
The opposite of what experts had predicted. Latest wage data was also disappointing, showing pay hikes aren't keeping up with inflation.
It's gone completely off the cliff, and nobody's doing anything about that. The average person can't afford to go to the grocery store anymore.
I definitely think the fuel is the biggest impact, but I also do think it's temporary.
War-induced high gas prices are averaging just over $4 a gallon nationwide. Inflation has crept up since Trump took office, despite what he said last week.
We have very low inflation. We brought inflation way down.
His top economic advisor, Kevin Hassett, did acknowledge some of the problems on Sunday.
Grocery prices are still high, and we've still got a lot of work to do.
But he insisted the employment rate is on the rise in some key sectors.
The thing that really jumps out at us is that those are really good jobs. They're manufacturing jobs. They're construction jobs.
The most recent CBS News poll found voters remained skeptical. 55% said the Republican Party's policies are hurting their cost of living. A concern that is now being echoed by Democratic candidates like Michigan's Abdul El Sayed. He's hoping a focus on affordability will help him win a seat in the U.S. Senate.
Donald Trump has been an existential threat to our democracy. He is costing us jobs. He is costing us more at almost every aspect of our lives, whether it's our gas, our groceries, or our health care.
In an interview late last week, President Trump said GOP voters may be angry with Republicans in Congress, but voters are not angry with him. The distinction may not matter much, however. Voters historically hold the party in the White House responsible for the state of the economy, especially in an election year, Vlad.
Well, despite the fact that Biden has been gone for how many years now exactly, it's still the Biden economy. You know what I mean? I feel like the good parts of the Trump economy, the bad parts of the Biden economy. That's one of my favorite quotes we've gotten from this new administration. Christ. Ladies and gentlemen, you got to give Trump this. He is entertaining out the get out. Like, you got to admit it. You got to admit it. Joe Biden's years were pretty boring when you compare it to this. A little more like stable, steady, kind of. There was still quite a lot of, division. There was still quite a lot of conversations happening that were a little uncomfortable. Might have gotten you fired if you brought it up in the wrong sector of your job. But it's a fun time to be alive still. The Trump administration is a great time because it's inspiring a lot of new vision. It's inspiring a lot of new leaders. And, we're seeing how things are shaping up for 2028. I am nothing but scared, ladies and gentlemen. But hopefully I can bring you a teensiest bit of relief. I have had a great time gathering these stories for you. I hope you had an even more wonderful time listening to them. We're going to call it because, it's a Monday, and I know that everybody's busy generally. So this is just, that this is a solid chunk of time that I could reasonably ask of you on such a busy day. If you'd like to be there for the rest of our updates, our news discussions for the week, subscribe if you want more, like if you liked it, ring the bell for notifications. We upload Monday through Friday every single week. I have been your host, Ollie Vogt Larson. I hope that you've enjoyed this episode of Your Brain on Air. I have been your host. I will be with you next broadcast literally tomorrow, but in the meantime, bye-bye.